I'm afraid it's been 9 years.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Ji-Young here with part 2 of Kojima Speaks. Geoff Keighley from Game Trailers pulled Kojima aside after his conference at GDC to clear away some of the confusion and answer some questions. In part 1, I talked about general new information, such as the setting, story, and gameplay. In part 2, I'm going to get more specific and talk about questions answered about the trailer, answered by Kojima himself. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. I've gotta say though, thank God for Geoff Keighley, who smartly asks the right questions about the contents of the trailer. First, clarification was made about who the third character is in the opening scene, the one lying on the hospital bed behind the first-person view camera alongside Big Boss and Kaz. Kaz actually asks about the man behind the camera during the trailer.
What about him then?
And I am sorry to say it is not what you're expecting. According to Hideo Kojima, the man behind the camera is Hideo Kojima. I shit you not. Kojima says that the man behind the camera is himself as a game designer looking into the game, looking at his creations, his characters, just checking up on everything. There's nothing abnormal about this, to be honest. Kojima actually makes cameos in past Metal Gear Solid games like in Peace Walker. In other words, the man behind the camera is no big deal as far as the game is concerned. I honestly can't tell if Kojima actually means what he says or if he's just trolling us. But I'll take his word for it for now and assume that the man behind the camera just doesn't mean anything for the game. Then, Kojima proceeds to answer questions about the very last scene of the trailer, in which we see Big Boss rocking some kind of a horn. As it turns out, it's no horn. According to Kojima, it is actually debris and bone embedded into a skull. It's a wound. If you look carefully during the hospital scene, you can actually see something bulging out from underneath the bandages. Strangely enough, however, we don't see the debris when he's hospitalized 9 years earlier. But then again, neither is his arm missing then. Looks like a lot has happened to Big Boss during his 9 years of slumber. I mean, what else? Is his sack missing a ball? Who knows? Anyways, speaking of the missing arm, a little bit of information was given about the prosthetic. Apart from being an arm replacement, Kojima hints at the possibility of it having a few other functionalities, the same way Galvez's arm from Peace Walker had little features like a lighter. Specific functionalities for Snake's arm weren't mentioned, but expect the arm to be, well, armed with a few tools to help players tackle missions. Now, don't expect to go all Mega Man or Terminator with it, but do expect some cool features. Throughout the interview, we also get information on what Diamond Dogs is. First and foremost, it is a new unit created by Big Boss after MSF and the Mother Base were completely eradicated during the events of Ground Zeroes. As the narrator says, it is their new home. The name Diamond Dogs, according to Kojima, comes from the fact that the soldiers in the unit are all dogs of war, doing dirty things to earn money and achieve their goals. But at the same time, they have pride in what they do, which is where the diamond part comes in. You could say they're kind of like the Expendables from the movie, not necessarily evil, but doing what they need to do to survive and achieving their goals with pride, even if it is dirty work. Also, my assumption that Diamond Dogs could be related to Blood Diamonds could end up being reality. When Geoff Keighley makes his own guesses about what Diamond Dogs could mean, he actually does mention Blood Diamonds. Moments later, Kojima confirms that Geoff Keighley touched upon some of the things the symbol represents.
This group, the Diamond Dogs, what can you tell us about them? There's been lots of rumors, like does that have to deal with Blood Diamonds or where the game is set? That's a new group, right, for Metal Gear?
You know, there are many different meanings behind this name. You know, I think you touched on a few of them.
This could be further evidence that at some point in Phantom Pain, Big Boss may establish himself in South Africa, a country with a history of blood diamonds, and also where Outer Heaven is eventually relocated and re-established. Diamond Dogs could also be a reference to the Foxhound unit, since Foxhound is also the name of a breed of dogs. Finally, let's talk about the game title shown in the trailer. A lot of people, including myself, have been wondering, why is the title's 5 a Roman numeral now, instead of a number? The Metal Gear Solid saga has always used numbers throughout the main series, so why change that now? The simple reason is that Kojima is aiming to make a new type of Metal Gear Solid game and evolve the series, from its open world structure along with various gameplay enhancements to its different tone. Metal Gear Solid 5 will be different from what fans have come to know. To stand out from the ever-competitive market in the West, Hideo Kojima and his team have decided to reinvent themselves and the series, especially now with a new and much more efficient Fox engine. So shifting from number to Roman numeral signifies a familiar, yet different Metal Gear Solid game. The V also stands for Kojima's ultimate goal for the game, victory. This fact takes us to the end of the trailer, which shows the phrase, V has come to. The meaning of this phrase can now be reduced to two possibilities. Possibility number one is that it is saying that Vic Boss, or Victory Boss, a nickname given to Big Boss in Peace Walker, has finally come to after a 9-year coma. Possibility number two is that the phrase simply states that victory has come to. To who specifically? Perhaps to Diamond Dogs, Big Boss's new unit. The phrase is, after all, right on top of the unit's logo. So, not only is Kojima striving for victory with his new game, but so is Big Boss with his new unit. Hell, the V in the phrase could stand for both Big Boss and victory at the same time for all we know. And that is as far as the interview goes when it comes to the trailer. Now, one thing players will not notice from the trailer is the fact that David Hayter will not reprise his role as Snake.
Okay, have time to go.
What happened to the woman?
The woman? We gave her a light. She took the short way down.
Who are you?
You would have to watch the gameplay demonstration shown at GDC to hear Snake's new voice. At some point, Geoff Keighley actually touches upon this rather sensitive topic among Metal Gear Solid fans, the absence of David Hayter. Kojima confirms that Snake certainly will be voiced by a new voice actor, although he refrained from saying who. Kojima's reason for not approaching David Hayter is that his goal is to recreate the Metal Gear Solid series, to change up the formula a bit. As Kojima puts it, it's a new type of Metal Gear, and he wanted to reflect that in the voice as well. The same way he's changing the number 5 to a Roman numeral 5, Kojima is changing the voice actor to reflect change and evolution. I think there's more to it than that though. You wanna know my theory? I think Kojima wants a better voice actor for the protagonist. I say this because the English voice actor for Kaz, Robin Downs, and the Japanese voice actor for Snake, Akio Otsuka, both veteran actors and voice actors, were kept. The one with least experience, David Hayter, has been singled out, which leads me to believe that Kojima wants a more experienced voice actor for Snake to go along with the new direction he is steering the series. I may get some hate for this, no pun intended, but there are better voice actors out there than David Hayter. Don't get me wrong, I love the guy. I love the unique voice he gives to Snake, and I really want him to reprise his role because I've grown up listening to his voice when playing Metal Gear Solid games. But at the same time, in my opinion, there are better voice actors out there. If Metal Gear Solid is steering in a more serious direction, perhaps a more seasoned voice actor taking the helms is a good thing. Whatever the case, I have come to accept it. Nothing we can really do about it, unfortunately. It's disappointing, but I am sure the new voice actor will do Big Boss justice, and I'm especially sure that Metal Gear Solid 5 will be a masterpiece regardless. The interview also answers a few other smaller questions. What's the reason behind this giant publicity stunt with Phantom Pain, Moby Dick Studio, and Joachim Mogren? As stated before, Moby Dick Studio is simply put Kojima Productions. It is another way of saying that it is a fake studio intended for trolling, admittedly an enjoyable kind of trolling. The reason for their publicity stunt was to see how people would react to the new Fox engine and the direction of their new game without prior knowledge of it being Metal Gear Solid. They wanted to evaluate people's reaction in a scenario where the game was a blank canvas rather than an established name. They weren't trying incredibly hard to hide it either. They knew people would figure it out at some point, and when they did, Kojima is glad that people went along with it. Kojima was surprised, however, how fast the internet found out about the hidden title. Kojima was also asked about next-generation platforms. Unfortunately, he refrained to comment on that, but he does confirm that the game will be out on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, and that graphically, the game will look close to the footage shown at GDC, which is fantastic news. Finally, some sad news. Unfortunately, Kojima hopes that this is the last Metal Gear Solid game that he works on so he can pursue his other projects, goals, and dreams. He wants to leave the Metal Gear Solid series to his trusted staff and move on. Although, to be honest, he did say the same thing for Metal Gear Solid 4, so I am sure he'll keep returning to Metal Gear Solid one way or another. It's his baby, after all. Although I wouldn't mind if he took a break from the series, I would love to see what else he can come up with. And that concludes the two-part Kojima Speaks Metal Gear Solid 5 news update. Thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you guys found all this information useful. To be further updated on Metal Gear Solid 5, be sure to join the NASIAN and subscribe to Yongge. I also cover other AAA franchises and will soon start reviewing games. Also, look forward to my game cinemas, such as the upcoming Skyrim movie Dragonborn, coming on summer of 2013. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much, and Young out!